Hey everyone, Tuesday night. Welcome to Getting Back to Zero. I'm your host, Jeff G, talking to you from Cincinnati, Ohio. I had a incredible manly day. I will post pictures. I think everyone's going to want to see it, but I rebuilt a gate with new hinges, a lock, and I made my wife sit outside and watch me open and close it like 48 times. Um, she wasn't impressed, but I was damn impressed because rarely do I do projects like that they actually work. So I will be posting some pictures of something that none of you care about, but I'm feeling like He-Man today. So on top of the world, other than the fact that it is smoking hot, not as smoky as California is right now with the fires, but hot and humid out here. So we're going to have fun tonight. Tonight is panel night, and I have back three of our superstars, our peers, back to zero. I think with this Tuesday night panel thing, we're going to rotate people in, and a lot of people have responded, and we're going to be adding people, fresh faces all the time. I'm really excited about it, but so please DM me, put it in the Facebook. I'll run the little info, my email address below as we're going as well. But if you'd like to be on and be a part of the panel, it'd be great. Basically, I'm looking at this. We are Tuesday night is a bunch of flawed humans talking about real problems that we all face. So I'm trying to get topics that we're dealing with. The one that I kind of want to lead off tonight. Some of you saw I put a post on about purpose, and it was brought up in a trauma class that I was doing about having a purpose. And it seems that kind of the common thread is people that have a purpose in life. For me, it was raising kids, being a coach, a lot of those kinds of activities that kept me going, kept me focused, kept my mind on more positive things. Yeah, I was still drinking like a fish at the time, but it wasn't the negative, completely self-destructive drinking that happened later. But when my kids got old enough to not need a youth coach, not need someone playing ball in the backyard, I kind of felt like I lost my purpose, and I wandered a little aimlessly. And I think because that was missing, I turned to much more. It really ramped up my drinking and went into a destructive thing. I also know some people that have, with injuries, have lost their careers, lost their identity. I don't know, marriages, whatever the case may be, and without that purpose. So I want to get into that, but I want to bring in our group first. I want to bring in Charissa. How you doing, Charissa? Welcome.
Hey, good to see everybody.
Glad you're here. And we have Cindy from Chicago. How you doing, Cindy?
Good.
Good to see you. And Jenny, Jerry.
She's on a call.
This is your wife on the phone. She said the gate fell.
No, that thing is going nowhere. There's more concrete in that than Hoover Dam.
Roaming these states.
The screws that are holding it together weigh more than the gate itself. The wood. That thing ain't going nowhere. So I will be out looking at it some more. So you know what? With this whole purpose thing, I don't know if you saw Elizabeth put on a thing. She saw my post about not having a purpose because she said, "You want a purpose? I've got the honeydew list that you ignore. Your purpose is right up here, ready to go. Get on it." So that kind of backfired on me. But Cindy, I want to start with you on this. What is your definition of purpose, and does that make? I guess I want you to kind of reiterate what, maybe validate what I'm saying about this, because I really think that when I have something to work for, someone that maybe is relying on me, goals, something that's got me going forward, when that was lifted for me, and for me, it was my kids. Not that I don't have other purpose with wife and family and other stuff and grandkids, but that was a major part of my growing up. I coached everything my kids did. I used to build training aids. I used to play catch any ball they wanted to do. And when they got old enough and moved on and didn't, that was a big void. And suddenly I was sitting there by myself going, what am I going to do tonight? And then I was feeling sorry for myself, and you know where I turned, to the the natural light delivery man. So does that make sense to you? Is that common? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that there might be a difference between purpose, and I think with people who drink excessively or use drugs or whatever, I think not to confuse it with like sort of the guardrails, what you're talking about, because it's like your job and your family and your kids kind of provides a structure, which I think is different than a purpose, because I think a purpose.
Well, the structure is one thing, but the purpose is something that I can't wait to do. It's something to look forward to. It's to
right.
anticipate. It's a responsibility. It's more than just the rails keeping me straight. It's a reason. Is a reason to do something other than to be. I'm looking for the word, a focus, a desire. Something that really grabs my interest. And when that was gone, that's where the void was.
Right, and I think when you get sober, or everyone gets sober, you're a different person. So you have different purpose. And I think the community, you end up always helping others. That's what we do. And that's where I think the best meaningful things come from. I mean, just what you're doing now that gives you purpose, I think. But I think there's a danger in over identifying with something, because once that gone, like let's say, I'm a mother and that's my whole life. Well, your kids grow up and now you over identify with a label or a purpose, and then you're left with what happens when that's gone.
That's what I was hearing commonly in the thread.
Yeah.
People saying that.
Yeah. So I really think it's for me, like, if I was to say what is my purpose, I would say that it changed over time. It's changed over time. And as I no longer drink, my purpose is a lot different. It's more of a spiritual path that I have taken. And my purpose is in one way or another to help others. And I feel like that's maybe overused, but I think just being the best human being and person that you can be really helps the people around you as you're a healthy person, and the way that you engage in healthy ways in all of your relationships really creates a spark and helps everyone around you in some form. And I think, to me, that's enough. I strive for some larger goals, but I think that as a purpose, as to be the best Cindy that I can be, and knowing that I am a loving, kind human being, that will ultimately express itself. So I think it's good to stick to a basic thing that, about the purpose. Otherwise you over-identify, and that's my thought.
Jesse, Charissa, you guys have thoughts on do you have a purpose?
Well, this is kind of interesting because just today I was watching a YouTube video and actually talking about the balance between masculine and feminine. And they had actually said that having a purpose and having focus is actually a very masculine trait, which we all have both, right? Some of us lean more feminine, some of us lean toward masculine. Without that masculine energy inside of us, we would never, find focus, right? And achieve something. And that's something I've struggled with throughout my life, is balancing the masculine and feminine, because of how I grew up, and survival was part of my life. I had to be very masculine, and now I work in a tech company, which is also very masculine. So finding that feminine balance has been something that I've had to work toward. And it's really kind of like what Cindy was saying, was when you drop into your feminine, and then it's more about how you feel, not what your mind is telling you to do. Right. And I could totally relate to what you're saying. Like, oh, shoot, now the kids are grown, and I was very involved with my children as well. And yeah, what do I do now? And for me, I remember talking to a therapist about it, saying, I want to find out why I'm here. What's the point? What's even the purpose of me being here? And she handed me Eckhart Tolle's The New Earth, which that's exactly what it says on the cover, is finding your life's purpose. And according to Eckhart Tolle, which is what I take as my life's purpose now, is our purpose in this lifetime is to awaken, which means to tap into our spirituality, right? Tap into the collective consciousness, and then help others to awaken as well. Kind of very similar to what Cindy was saying, but that's so wild that you brought that up, and I was just thinking how that's just your masculine energy. You need
Well,
something to do. You need something to do.
I'll
What
tell you,
do I do now?
there was nothing feminine about that gate work tonight. I mean, that was total. That was borderline He-Man
You
masculinity.
missed the
work.
point. I'm
Soft
saying your
drills.
masculine is.
But so
You
Jesse,
totally missed the whole point.
I know, I
Next.
got the point. I just couldn't resist. But here's one, Jesse. This came about a guy that we were talking to that's struggling right now with addiction, with alcohol abuse. A military guy. Well, he was injured. His whole goal, his whole thing in life was a military career. That's what his identity, everything he worked for, very highly ranked, and he was injured and was not able. So suddenly, everything he had worked for was stripped away from him. That was his whole purpose in life, was to achieve and to be what he wanted. His identity, his purpose was gone. And you hear a lot about that. So is that any thoughts on that or experience with it?
I think that relates. There's a lot of people that can relate to something like that. In the military, especially, there's so many instances where that happens, or say they think they're going to get a job that is in relation to what they did in the military, and a lot of times that doesn't happen. But I am thinking of a family member of mine that got rocked with terminal illness and had everything going, and then all of a sudden is paralyzed and can't do anything for themselves, but remained very rich because she was forced to sit in her thoughts. And thank goodness for myself and for her that she turned them into beautiful things. And I see for myself, it's the purpose in that instance is to just be, and to be truthful to who you are at your core. Like, nobody is like, when they go to sleep at night, or you're not your job. You're not, as much as you like to think it, you have to think there's so much that goes into that person. And I think a lot of people just identify themselves as one thing, but really there's a lifetime of things that happen. So that's where, I know I'm getting rambly.
No, if someone is struggling with it, what is the solution? I think, for me, just doing this live stream and this little thing gives me something to work for. When I come home at night, I'm not focused on, my thoughts are on, okay, we have this thing at 8:00. I got to get ready for it. Now I'm not. Before I was thinking about, I've got nothing. So obviously the only thing I'm thinking about is drinking. So this gives me.
Sorry.
No, I was just saying that it gives me that purpose. For me, it works beautifully because it gives me something else to focus on, a goal, what I need to do, versus just I don't have anything, so I'm in my own head now, and I'm gonna drink it away. Maybe it's diversion. I don't know. There's a lot to it.
I had to, in my experience, I had to completely change my environment around me. And also, I just started where all of my free time, it's like being on a steps, like going on steps, where at the very bottom, it's just like, just lay down, lay in the fetal position and be like, holy shit, what happened? And then next, okay, now we're going to take the dogs on a walk. That's going to be, and it's just like a gradual thing. And then next thing I knew, I was reading. I never opened up books. I never watched, I just always watched trash television. And then I tried getting into hobbies. And I think that that's the basic thing, is you got to kind of get to know yourself. When you get into sobriety, you got to figure out what the hell you like to do. And what makes you feel at peace. I told Dave earlier, because I'm not having the best of day. We have contractors coming in and out of the house and keep wanting to increase prices on everything, and it makes you like. And I said, I'm really happy I have this thing tonight, because when you get out and you talk with other people with the same thing you have and the same understanding of, okay, well, there's a person that has gone through the same struggles, and helping others and all of that, it just makes me feel better and brings me down to earth. So that's all I got.
Jeff, can I say something?
Yeah, please.
So I think like after you've been sober for a while, I think it's important to stay in the uncomfortable moments and not busy yourself, because it's like you learn what it's like to, because basically I numbed myself with drugs and alcohol for a long time. So I really didn't understand half the shit I was feeling now. Oh, I would be like happy, sad, drunk, sober. I didn't even know the whole list of emotions. And so I have found, through meditation and other things that I do, that it's the most beautiful thing is to able to be quiet and just sit and not busy my mind or my body with activity. And once you're okay with that, and because you start to get to know, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling anxiety. You start to be able to name those things. I mean, I felt foolish for the longest time because I didn't even know what I was feeling half the time, because I started using very early. I was numbing myself out. And I think when you over engage and try to do stuff all the time, I think that's another version of that a little bit, not maybe in an unhealthy way, but I have found the key for me has been, and the most rewarding thing is being able to really be like, okay, I'm angry right now, so I'm just going to sit here, let myself feel it, figure out and work through it. Wow, what a concept.
But Cindy and Charissa, you're shaking your head in agreement. That goes against everything that I've preached and believed, because my thing is that when I got to distract myself. If I at 5 o'clock on a Friday, now trust me, it could be 5 a.m. on a Tuesday. It doesn't have to, but that's typical drinking time. 5 o'clock. My thing was get on the phone and call Charissa, talk to someone else, put it in some music, distract myself, get a hobby, do something.
You have a little monkey mind. Wait till you keep doing yoga. Keep with the yoga. It's your little monkey mind at work.
Like I ended up in traction.
And I'm not criticizing that. I mean, we all do that in this society.
But that's my whole point, is everything was distract yourself, because when I sat and listened to Jeff idle time, that's when I self-destructed and started to think about drinking. You're saying, and Charissa, you're agreeing. So I'm, that I don't get a hobby, sit and
And do your breathing, and it'll help your anxiety. I'm going to send you some breathing stuff. No, it really,
Yes.
I think it helps. It helps you center yourself. It helps you, who is Jeff? Who is Jeff when he's not running around, when Jeff's not doing all the things? Who is Jeff?
But then why do you hear get a hobby, exercise, talk to another,
there's self-improvement is good, and it can take place on many levels. But I think talking about your life purpose and true, deep, soulful work at the core is that. Right, Charissa? Right,
You're both right. You're both right. Because in the beginning, when you're brand new in sobriety, distracting yourself is all you have.
That's what I said.
Brand new
on in sobriety. Yeah. No, because I think that is
because you have those old tapes, right? That is like, I'm happy, drink. I'm sad, drink. I'm mad, drink. Those are those old tapes. So you have to create new tapes, right? Well, after a while of creating those new tapes, the way you balance out you're having to, we're all saying the same thing, we're just saying it in different ways. But how you balance out, maybe losing your purpose, even though you really don't, is that you tap into your spirituality. So you tap into your spiritual side. Like Jesse said, you're just being. And like Cindy said, being comfortable with the uncomfortableness. But this is all like advanced stuff, right? Like once you're no longer in crisis mode in the beginning, like you're saying, Jeff, where, you just constantly want to drink all the time because you're going through physical withdrawals. You've trained your body to want to drink about everything. And, for everybody, it's different. Everybody gets, is there at a different pace. It's not like you get to some magical number of days sober and you're there. Everyone gets there when they get there. But yes, in the beginning, changing your brain patterns is survival. But once you get out of that survival mode and you're no longer surviving, then you get to just tap in your spirituality and you get to just be.
How important is then remembering your past? Because I don't want to forget. I hate remembering the crap I did, but I don't ever want to forget it. So where is the balance there? How important is it to, because I want to let that stuff go. A lot of it, I want to let it go.
I feel like you should let it all go because it wasn't you. None of it was you.
But my fear is if I forget what I did, then I might go, well, wait a minute. Maybe it wasn't that bad when I drank beer. I can probably do it.
So why would you want to drink beer? What would be a reason to drink alcohol?
My reasons are seeing other people doing it, other occasions I associate. But one of the reasons,
FOMO. You get FOMO?
Yeah, there's something. I mean, you've heard me talk. We love to go boating, and I see people at the marina, and they're sitting on the dock and and that looks fun. And if I forget what will happen to me if I go over there and join them and have a couple beers as they go home and have a wonderful evening, and I continue to just self-destruct because I started. If I forget that, I'm in trouble. So,
well, no, because you got to go deeper. Because you believe drinking is fun. That's what you're telling me. Drinking alcohol is fun.
There were parts of it that were fun. I mean, in the earlier days, sure, but it just didn't for me. I couldn't turn that off.
You have to ask yourself: is that true? Is it true that drinking alcohol is fun? And then list out. There probably were fun things about it. There's fun things about it to me. But the list of things that weren't fun about it is a lot bigger. So I think that's how you let go of the shame of the past and you just focus on the belief, right? You have a false belief that alcohol is fun. It was fun for a while until it wasn't fun anymore, right? I mean, at least for me, I think that's what I hear from most people. It was fun for a while until it wasn't fun, and you never know when that switch flips over. And then the next thing you know, you're waking up in the morning shaking and having to drink in order to just get through the day. That part wasn't fun. Being hungover for days or having to drink because I was hungover, that wasn't fun. Having my kids look at me in sadness was not fun.
but I have to remember that. I've got to remember the part that wasn't fun. Jesse, what were you going to say?
Well, I have two different points, but the first one is that whenever I hear you saying that the way that you did, and I'm not ripping on you, I think that this happens to a lot of people. I feel like you are comparing your experience at that moment with theirs, and you're affiliating yourself with, okay, they're having a good time. That's what that person's having. That's what I'm going to need to have a good time. And this is where I think it's really important to get comfortable with yourself sober. Like when I always feel like the first year, especially, it's kind of similar to being in a roller coaster where you're like holding on. And it's like, oh shit, oh, here we go. Someone just died. All right, we got that. So my significant other pissed me off. You go around, now we got a party to go to. And then next thing you know, everything is all done. And you're like, I got through it. And that was good. But then when you want to continue to thrive and do these things, it's important to just go and just be as yourself and not even worry about anything that's going on around you, what other people are holding in their cups. And I feel that we're similar in this way, Jeff, where our drunk self was the entertainer and the one that had to like talk and shoot the shit with people. And then now you're sober. And it's like, I know for me at first it was weird because I was like, all right, I'm not here entertaining people now. I don't feel like being funny. I'm not out on the dance floor. Like, that's how I felt. So I think you just got to learn to just be comfortable with yourself, and just know that you're enough just showing up there and talking shit as a sober person. Does that make sense?
It does. Someone asked what, with all of us, levels of sobriety, how long? I've got about 1.5 years. Charissa, what is your?
So I'm glad we're talking about this actually. So I have this go around. I've almost 7 months, but you got to be careful about comparing yourself to where other people are, right? I've been trying to get sober since December of 2016. I've had long bouts of sobriety. In that time, I worked the 12 steps of AA. I've been to rehab. I've done multiple different sobriety programs. So I am not impressed by just time alone, but by the quality of someone's sobriety, right? And I can't sit here and say, I have 7 months, so you need to be where I'm at, or, I can't compare myself to Jesse, because we have different life experiences. And that's one of the complications about recovery, is that everybody's on a different level and everyone has different life experiences and our bodies are all different. So you can't sit and compare yourself, because then you just end up, what do they say? Comparison is help me out. What's that phrase? Comparison. Basically, it's just a road to unhappiness.
Jesse, what do you, just for purposes, what's your sobriety length?
I just picked up 2.5 years.
Cindy?
I don't keep track. But Jessie knows that I always use her as she's my calendar. I'm always like, what year was that? What happened when? Because so we got sober at the same time. So 2.5 years. That's what I was wondering about that. I don't keep track. I don't think about it. But I'm glad I have Jessie to always be like, I'll just have to ask Jessie. She's the bearer of the memories. Mine is
But
terrible.
even though you have the same amount of time, how silly would it be for you guys to sit here and go, well, Jesse's better at this and Cindy's better at that? How silly would that be, right? You
Well,
you
I
are where
don't
you
see it
are.
like, but I don't see
And I'm
it.
not saying you do. I'm just saying
Yeah.
you just can't. I used to do that a lot. I used to compare myself to people a lot. And when I quit doing that, I got a lot happier.
I wanted to say something before. One of my favorite old timers in the AA program had said that when it comes to the past and things that you are, upset with, he, for instance, as he tells this story, he was walking into a gas station and he drove a gas liner. He was a trucker. And he walked into the convenience store and somebody held a 12 gauge up to his head. And he had said, everybody, even him, that person was trying to do the best that they could for themselves for survival on that day at that given time. It's not saying that what he was doing was right, but every single thing that we do throughout our day, we're doing it out of survival mode. And that's what we did when we were drinking is it was a constant thing of survival and just doing what we thought was the right thing to do. And I had some amazing times, and some of those amazing times were with Cindy when alcohol was involved. But there are times that I cringe when the idea of them comes up. But it is the truth that given my situation and where I was at that time, and given what I had in my system, was the best thing. It was the best that I could do. I hope that makes sense. I can't talk as gracefully as that man can, but it certainly helped me for dealing with my past stuff and dealing with the people that I hold resentments to. So
I've got a one of my things to watch is maintaining balance in my recovery. I am so excited about being sober. I've got my life back. I've got my ability to dream back. I've got anticipation back. I've got I enjoy living. Not that I was suicidal, but I was just surviving, and now I'm living again. Sobriety is huge to me. I have a tendency to go overboard, and I worry that I'm putting way too much time into this and not balancing out the other parts of my life. Do any of you deal with balance issues? How do you find that balance and maintain that? Because I'm such an all or nothing kind of guy. And what scares me also is that I look back at exercise programs where I was a triathlete for 10 days. And then after the day 11, I said, screw this. And I walked to the couch and it was over because I burnt myself out. I went, instead of just doing moderation, I went overboard. I didn't find the balance, and I struggle with that. And I'm scared to death of losing. I'm scared to death of burning myself out on sobriety. But I worry, and I haven't heard anything. And I think everyone's so thrilled with the job I'm doing with it. But I worry that, I'm with the three of you right now instead of my family. And I think they're glad I'm here. But at the same time, you know where I'm going with that. I'm putting a lot into my sobriety. So do you guys deal with those issues at all?
Well, for me, I put myself first now, and I do a lot of self-care, which I never did before. I work, so You know, every single day I meditate. Every single day I have a whole ritual that I do, which is kind of like an AA thing too, where you go to meetings. I don't do any of that, but I have a spiritual ritual that I do. So when I start my day with that, I remain in balance. Because I no longer do things I don't want to do because I'm going to be resentful. Like, over time I've realized, there's obligations that I have and I take care of my obligations. But when you're sober, you're really like a new baby again. Like, what do I like? What do I don't like? Who knows? I get excited about discovering new things, and that the balance. But I think when you first start out, Jeff, you want to surround yourself with what you're comfortable with, and then you just kind of branch out. So I have found that I am under a lot of pressure. I work a lot. I have a kind of a lot of pressure all around me. And it's amazing that I have gotten sober under that. But I don't feel now, since being sober into like 2.5 years, I feel less pressure, even though the same things around me exist. I don't feel that anymore. I feel like I have a pretty good balance. It goes up and down, but then one day at a time, right? One day at a time. You're not going to balance everything all the time. It's not like all of a sudden we have it all figured out and okay, this is the formula and this is perfect, because every freaking day is different, right? Every problem, it's like the hits keep coming sometimes. So finding that inner thing is really what it was about for me. So I feel more balanced than I ever have with my obligations and my life. But I do put myself as number one, self-care, because if I don't do that, nothing goes right. Nothing goes right. I'm not thinking clearly. If I start to overextend myself, I'm angry, I'm resentful, I'm tired, I'm not showing up as the person I want to be. So it takes a while to discover what your balance is and what you're comfortable with. And, because you want to be able to give your full attention to whatever it is you're doing and feel good about it, So, but, it's kind of navigating new territory, I think, and slowly starting to figure that out. It's a slow roll.
Jesse, we have a good time giving each other, harassing each other, but I know for a fact that you are probably one of the most giving people, and the people that I've met that know you talk about how quick you are to give of yourself. Is there a problem sometimes when you put others in front of yourself? When you not saying no, not doing, maybe the boundaries thing comes into that, but I think you're one that I would guess, because you're such a nice person. I hate to admit that, I never will again, but the truth is,
go ahead.
But I could see you as falling prey to that.
Can you say that again so I can hold the computer outside and my other half can hear someone say, "You are the man."
I hear the bullshit in the background.
Well, thank you for that. I use this term a lot when I share in meetings or anything, that I am a recovering doormat. I let everyone and everything walk all over me in the past. I grew up without having much of a say in things. My parents were very, sweet people, but there was never, well, why? Like when they said no, there was none of that. And so I just never, was much to speak up for myself. And so when there are times now when I am overextending myself, I do get really out of sorts because I feel like I'm not failing my program, but I got like a D- that day, you know? Cindy knows firsthand of like some of the things I'm going through at the moment. And it makes me almost feel sick to my stomach. And similar to what she was saying of the importance of self-care, when it comes to what you had mentioned about meeting attendance and how much are you contributing, there are times that, yeah, but Dave would much rather have me here than be wondering what if I've broken into this wine fridge that's in my home that's now just filled with water bottles. So yeah, I just think that boundaries are definitely a huge practice for anybody in the recovery world, because I don't think any of us had boundaries.
I'm I don't want to lose a friend. I don't want to tick someone off. I don't want to, and I think I can be probably like you, I'll put people that aren't even that close to me or important to me ahead of me, because I don't want to hurt feelings or say no to someone. I mean, I've got a pickup truck. If you need someone to help you move, call me, because I'll never say no. I wish I could, but that's a curse that I have.
But I think I learned that I did that too, but it was really people pleasing, which is a lot different than, I don't want somebody to think that I'm not giving, that's trying to please everybody. That box, yeah. And I was in a profession for 20 some years that all I did was in the service industry was please people. So there's a different, you know what I mean? So distinguishing about trying to please somebody because you care about what they think, and I don't want them to think this about me. Like, I don't do that now, but I had to work at that because I am who I am now, and I like who I am, and that's what's most important. But some of those things that you just said are like people pleasing stuff that gets into murky territory, and I think a lot of addicts do that.
Teresa, did you lose any friends because you put boundaries up, or?
More like family members that were toxic. Because I grew up actually around a lot of toxic people, and when it used to really upset me, and then I just realized, I'm allowing this in my life, and I had to make a decision to not allow that person access to me. So some of them get over it, some of them don't, some of them just ignore me. But I had to go, it came down to I had to take care of myself, or I'm not good to anyone else. I'm not good to my kids. And by the way, Jeff, I live on the 3rd floor, and I need someone that can help me move in a couple months.
Seriously, I wish I could say no.
It's in Texas. Is that cool?
Oh, I know. No, that's my only saving grace that I have is the commute. But yeah,
Your truck won't drive to Texas? Like what? I don't understand.
I'm learning, but no, if you were local, yeah, it's I've always been that way.
I think Cindy said it best, because it is people pleasing, and it's a lie, honestly. And I'm not calling anyone a liar. I was saying for me, it was a lie, and I was trying to control what other people thought of me. And that's impossible, because, I'm not in their head. And I thought I was giving myself a lot more power than I thought I had. And when it comes down to it, people either like me or they don't. And if they like me, it doesn't matter what I do, they're still going to like me. And if they don't like me, it doesn't matter what I do, they're still not going to like me. And I have to be okay with that. And part of that is me having integrity in my life and with myself, because I used to lie all the time, right? I used to dine and dash all the time. I used to do terrible things, right, when I was drinking. And I hated myself because of it. So then I do these fake things to try to convince myself I was a really good person by trying to convince you I'm a good person. It was all just lying to me and cheating me, and now like someone says, yeah, you could have lied to me. I would have known you different, but I would have known, right? I would have known that I lied. And now to make my amends, I have to give $20 tips all the time when I'm at restaurants, because how else do you make up for it, right?
Jesse's sitting there saying, "Where's mine?" Did that ever happen to you, Jesse? Did you ever get dined and dashed on?
Not a table. I don't think so. I don't think so. But yeah, it's pretty devastating. I know for sure when it happens and the fear of it. But I mean,
Oh, I was bad. I'd drink a whole bunch and then sneak out. It was terrible. It was terrible. Ugh. But, I mean, that wasn't me. That was just something I did when I was drinking, and I was selfish and I was self-centered. So now I get to bless people with big, giant tips.
oh, good.
So another question that came up was, and I wanted to kind of hit, Teresa, you reminded me of this earlier when you said, because obviously you've had a couple stints before this one is really working well for you, obviously. The necessity of hitting rock bottom, because it almost, so many people have to hit rock bottom because they throw in well, it hasn't happened yet. They think they still have a fighting chance with this thing until they finally bottom out. I think I got out very lucky. I think I was a day away from just destroying everything that I had, if not worse. I was right there, and somehow I managed to pull the chute, the ripcord on it. But I also worry that because it wasn't so bad, maybe, and this goes back to what we said earlier, and my thought was that maybe I'll forget because it wasn't that bad, and maybe I'll lessen the impact of why I decided I got to go this path of sobriety. So how important is the rock bottom? Can you do it without? And Teresa, I'll just go back to you. What made this one different? Did you hit a rock bottom or?
No. I mean, I hit what I would consider my rock bottom, and everyone's rock bottom is different, right? Back in December of 2016, when I had been drinking so much, and I threw all my boyfriend's stuff out of the apartment and had a suicide attempt and ended up in, getting, 24-hour hold. I mean, that was more like, I wouldn't call it my rock bottom because I relapsed after that, but it was a big wake up call. It was the first time when I realized, okay, maybe all this drinking and using is not working for my life. I never had a DUI. I never lost my kids. I never lost my job. I never lost my house. And yeah, like I said, I mean, that was the worst. That was probably the worst of it. And that didn't stop me from relapsing. So
what's making this one different?
Few different things. So I'd been living with complex PTSD that was undiagnosed for years. So I finally got diagnosed with complex PTSD. I got treatment for that. I did EMDR. Also found the Luckiest Club, which is a community where people just loved me no matter where I was at. And I was drinking when I first, started Luckiest Club. And just deciding that I was going to work this like it was my job. And I think, like Cindy was saying too, the self-care piece, loving myself enough to know that I'm worth the time and the effort to be sober.
Jesse, what are your thoughts on a rock bottom? I don't think you didn't, did you?
Yeah, Jeff. Well, I've had plenty, but I think that it was the boulder bottom that got it was a little more than just a rock.
The boulder bottom.
I was bartending, and it was Valentine's Day, which in the restaurant business is a curse. And I, long story short, had my medication that I took for my carpal tunnel, because I have awful carpal tunnel, and bartending, and then washed it down with probably about 3 bottles of wine. And all I remember is my lovely Dave walking into the restaurant when I was doing shots with this drug dealer and his wife. And I just was like, oh shit. And that's all I remember. And allegedly I passed out, and I woke up and I didn't remember how I got home. And the whole thing, it was just the same song and dance. I was just going to be another statistic in my family. And it was really, really ugly. I had no choice. And it's so funny because
what put you to make that choice that night, or I guess the next morning?
I knew that I couldn't even afford to allow a worse scenario than that. And I was under the impression that when Dave woke up, he would tell me I had to get out of the house. I was under the impression I didn't have a job anymore. None of that ended up happening. Who is a restaurant owner let someone keep their job when they did what I did? But I was really good at it. But I just knew that it was my only choice. And I did want to stop for months before that. I really wanted it. But my big problem was the thought of never having a drink again. And every single time I did drink, I thought for sure that I could just have one. I was very, very sick. I had a bankruptcy. I could not manage my life at all. So that was that. There was no more fighting for me. And
Cindy, can someone, what's the key to success if you have not hit a bottom like that? Can you do this?
Well, yeah, I don't think there's one formula. I don't know. I had I did a lot of stupid things that could be considered rock bottom. I remember smashing my car when I was drunk and not really remembering, but I always kind of held it together enough. But I think when my rock bottom was just, I think I had shared this with you before. I just remember hearing music and watching the people I was with dance, and that I was so sad and unhappy that I couldn't dance because I couldn't even remember what it was like to feel joy and happiness. And I was so disconnected from myself and my body and my whole entire life that I was like, you are in serious trouble and you need to turn this around. Drinking there was many components to that, but getting my shit together, number one, was drinking is not helping this. That's got to go. And I did that, but it wasn't like this, like a lightning bolt or something. It was just sort of the key that opened everything for me, though, was removing the alcohol. Was like, oh, wow. Yeah, maybe I should start thinking about boundaries. Maybe I should get some therapy. Maybe I should figure out why I've been numbing myself for years and years. What the hell? You know, I had to reconcile my childhood, all of these things that happened to me. And it was. So I don't think that you maybe have to lose everything or doing that, but the profound sense of loneliness and disconnection and emptiness for me was the most awful bottom I had ever hit. Ever. Was like, who are you? It was a really profound thing for me, but it wasn't. I didn't crash my car. But it led me to a place that I was so deeply unhappy with my life that I couldn't even feel joy.
I think that's dead on me as well, because I still think of a rock bottom has to be the headline news, the smashed car, the DUI. But I was everything you described. None of it was going to make the 5 o'clock news, but it was the boring stuff. Yes. For others I was gone.
Yeah, so I don't think you have to, right? I mean, you just have to be like, whoa, this is not what I want. This is, oh, no, you know. And for me, it was a sense of doing it for myself, because it wasn't like, I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to lose my marriage. It was like, you already lost yourself. You better go find that girl again. You can't play around with this anymore. Yeah.
That's such a good way to put it. I remember I used to say that the next day when I was hungover. I'd just tell the kids, I'm sorry, I lost myself again.
Oh, I'm getting chills right now, because I think, I had posted something like, I think of that girl. I think of that poor lost girl that I was. And I feel such compassion for her, of that person that I was, because I didn't know how to do it any different. I really, literally did not know. I didn't know what to do with my anxiety. I didn't know what to do with my loneliness. I didn't know what to do with any of these feelings. Nothing. It was like, I felt like I never got the freaking manual. Like, how did I not have these tools before? How the hell? I mean, I think Jesse and I laugh, like, boundaries. Now what is a boundary? A shadow work. What's that? You know what I mean? There's so much work to do, but I felt excited. It was like, wow, look at the reward I get. I get a happy life.
That's what you just said really relates to what I mentioned earlier about you were just doing the best you could.
Yes, right.
We didn't have a manual. And as Charissa said earlier too, you never know in life what people are getting hit with. And some people, you mix some alcohol abuse in with that, and it can just be catastrophic and really, really hard and impossible.
Well, Charissa, you didn't have any of the major stuff. Were you kind of the same way? Do you feel like you lost yourself as well? Was that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Lost myself, lost my integrity, lost the respect of my children, and mostly lost the respect of myself. Because, I could get up and show up at work, but I'd have alcohol in the drawer just to get through the day. Right.
Did you think, like I did, that give up drinking and all of your problems will go away?
No, I guess I'm thinking more like after I finally decided it was a problem or realized that it was a problem and relapsing, I knew alcohol was the problem. Because that's the other thing is relapsing. That's why relapsing is honestly so dangerous. It gets worse every time. The bottom, the use gets worse. The where I'm willing to go would get worse. How far down I was allow myself to go would get worse. Because you know what you know, and then you're just trying to drown it out,
Well, I want to thank all of you for being here, because it's this is where you learn. It's amazing. This is such a wee thing, and you open my eyes on some things. I think I don't know. I realize that I'm ready to go to the next step on a lot of the recovery on my journey. And if that means
Jeff, that's one of the things I admire most about you is that you're so open to everything. Like, it's gonna get easier and all. I really admire it at how open and vulnerable and how you're like absorbing and learning everything. I think that's really admirable. I just wanted to say that.
If I could just get that lotus position figured out.
And plus, my mom thinks you're super cute.
Well, thank you so much. You should see my gait. You talk about super cute.
Oh, she'd be totally impressed with it.
Oh, it was that was total He-Man stuff. Charissa, go ahead and make fun of me. What are you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say, how many trips to Home Depot though did the gate take?
I did have to go, but so 3.
Okay.
Three, and it really, and I think there was only 2 items, or 2. No, so I had to go back. Yeah, there always is. It's multiple. You put in what I spent, the gas, the time, everything, so much quicker to pay someone, but I wouldn't have had the same. And my wife, who's probably still out there right now, just opening and closing that gate, just saying, I am married to the man. It's that impressive.
You
my
definitely
neighbor
get
thinks
some
I'm
kale tonight.
Oh, I told my neighbor, I said, I will pose for 8x10s by this gate and sign those later on. So I will be putting some pictures up that people are going to I love, Jesse, how you just shake your head at me in disgust. It's very hurtful.
I can't help it.
All right. Well, look, hang on, everyone. Thanks so much. We'll be back. We have Shannon, another TLCer, is going to be on Thursday night. I can't wait to hear her story. And then Saturday morning, we have Brooke from TLC, one of the co-hosts or one of the hosts. She's going to join us as well, which is going to be fun. I told her, I said, it'll be nice. She's had to shut up and listen to us talk for the year. So now it's going to be time for her to do the talking. So hear her story. So we got some good stuff lined up, but thank all of you for being here and for opening up. It's fantastic. So have a great evening, everyone. And we will talk to you Thursday night. Take care. See ya.